All right, well, welcome guys. We'll leave the door open in case more people want to come in, but won't take too much of your time. This will really be kind of like a combination of like a presentation and a demo of MACI voting. If you haven't heard of MACI voting before, it's something that stands for Minimal Anti-Collusion Infrastructure. It's an acronym, MACI. And it's actually the idea of implementing this type of privacy voting has been around since 2018, where we actually originally were a research organization working alongside the Ethereum Foundation to come up with this concept of MACI voting, how to bring minimal anti-collusion infrastructure to crypto. And inspiration for this research you can actually find from one of Vitalik's original blog posts. It's a very famous research article called On Collusion, where he talks about the issues with on-chain voting and how privacy can, increase the cost of collusion and increase voter participation in general. So since 2018, we've been researching this concept. Ethereum Foundation has been very focused on deploying this directly for the Ethereum community, and we've been very focused on figuring out how to implement this for the multi-chain ecosystem. And originally what we would do is when we finally productionize this into a smart contract, we would ad hoc deploy MACI smart contracts. We would ad hoc deploy MACI smart contracts on various ecosystems in their own native VM, right? So we did MACI voting rounds for EVM chains, we did MACI voting rounds for Solana, we did MACI voting rounds for CosmWasm chains. But what we learned is that there's actually a number of pitfalls that come with standard MACI voting. MACI voting is very good in a few ways because it reduces collusion in on-chain voting because you don't actually know which way anyone voted. And whoever votes has no evidence that they can share with anyone of how they voted, right? So it's why would I pay Zon to vote yes, right? I could buy Zon's vote. Zon, here's $100, vote yes for me, right? But after you vote, you have nothing you can show me that verifies that you actually did indeed vote yes. So if I actually can never be assured that you did what I paid you to do, I'm less likely to pay you to do it, right? Because you could have voted no and I would have no idea and you still made $100. Can I show you my wallet? No, you can't show me your wallet because the votes are encrypted. So that's basically the essence of MACI. And what we wanted to do is find a way to make this a more modular, like a modular architecture to be able to bring it to the multi-chain and actually make it scalable. So despite MACI having advantages in general, related to on-chain privacy voting, it does have a few pitfalls, namely that it requires an operator for the round. This MACI operator needs to be technical because they actually need to be the ones to set up the round, to decrypt the votes once they get cast, to tally the votes, and to re-encrypt them, and then post them back on chain. So not anyone can be a MACI operator. So therefore, anyone that wants to spin up a MACI round has to first go source this operator, right, which leads to friction. Yeah?
What if I want bribing?
You want what?
Bribing.
Bribing? Oh, well, I guess you can still have bribing, but I guess the bribes could be anonymous, for example. Yeah. Yeah. And the other issue with MACI is that the operator actually can know the identities of the voters, right? Or at least their address identities, because they're actually the ones that are decrypting the votes, right? So while the voters can't collude, the operator can still collude. Or they could do something just refuse to post the results of the vote. After they tally it, they could delay posting, or they could just refuse to post. And that's a form of collusion. So what we did was actually figure out the best way to improve upon this and actually make this a modular architecture would be to deploy MACI as its own blockchain, which is what we did this year, which is what Voda is, which is a CosmWasm-enabled, IBC-enabled Cosmos SDK L1. And when you have MACI deployed, and when I say MACI deployed as a blockchain, what I mean is all of our mainnet validators are running MACI operator sidecar software. Much in the same vein as a DYDX validator is also required to maintain the order book or.
Vote extensions?
What's that?
Is it through vote extensions?
No, not through vote extensions. Just as a sidecar process. Or just how a say validator, for example, has to maintain a price feeder, right? It's just an extra piece of software that is one of the slashing conditions and hardware requirements of running a Voda mainnet validator. So what this does is it creates something called operator as a service, right? So now someone that wants to run a MACI voting round doesn't actually have to source an operator, right? They can just launch it directly on our chain, and one of our mainnet validators will be the operator, right? Just through leadership selection. And then the other thing is, now that they're also the operators of MACI rounds are the validators themselves, there's an economic incentive for them not to collude as well, because they don't want to be slashed. They don't want to delay posting the results, because if so, that's a slashing condition. Okay, so that's the first thing we did, right? Now MACI is its own blockchain called Doravoda. What we've done is we've created like a basic front end for Doravoda, right? There's a MACI Explorer live right now. You can go on our website, or you can go on the Doravoda block Explorer and see all of the active MACI voting rounds. And there's also an operator UX. If you want to be your own operator, like, you still can, and you can just go and start up any round you want. Long term, like what we envision like happening with the front end of MACI, right, of this voting infrastructure, is that there should be an expansion of possible front ends, right? Like, it would be great if existing governance platforms adopt MACI under the hood. There's plenty of existing governance platforms that have a lot of adoption, whether that's Snapshot or Agora or Commonwealth, even something more Cosmos native like DAO. They could essentially all integrate, like deploy on Doravoda, right? We could integrate MACI under the hood, and they could, like, they're really sexy front ends, right, that have existing users can essentially automatically have privacy voting by default. So that's the roadmap for expansion of our front end. And kind of as I said, like, being an operator is a technical job. So the advent of Doravoda as a MACI blockchain is really like the 0 to 1 innovation that makes MACI more scalable, because now anyone can run a MACI voting round without having to be technical themselves. So that's this is just the point I'm trying to highlight here. We're starting to see a lot of adoption now that we have Doravoda as its own L1. We're starting to see a lot of adoption, particularly from the Cosmos community. A lot of in-person Cosmos hackathons are using MACI as judging to decide who's going to win the prize. So we recently did this for the Awesome Wasm Hackathon, which is the largest Cosmos Wasm hackathon globally. It took place in Berlin the last 2 years. So this is like the MACI track voting from that. More MACI track voting from that. You can see we did a big collaboration with Confio. And then the other really interesting, big adoption we've seen from the Cosmos community is via the AEZ QF program, which is actually the largest on-chain privacy experiment ever in the history of Web3. It's $1 million program where over the next 2 years, we're going to be running 10 MACI voting rounds for the Cosmos Hub to fund early stage Cosmos public goods. There's a lot of public goods in Cosmos, and Cosmos doesn't have like a singular entity that's able to fund all of these important infrastructures, kind of like how in Solana you would have the Solana Foundation that can basically bankroll a lot of the important underlying infrastructure. There's not really one place or one organization in Cosmos that does this, so we said, why don't we throw it to the community? And now the community is actually voting via MACI on which important public goods in Cosmos should receive continuation funding, or what early stage projects should get some startup funding. And that's what's happening here. So over 1 million addresses are eligible to vote in this round. And we're doing 10 rounds, as I said. We just kicked off the second round, and these were the results from the first round. After one round, we already had over 18,000 unique votes in the round, and over 2,000 individual voters sign up that were Cosmos Hub stakers to participate in this program. So just in this first round, we distributed just over $100,000 worth of public goods fundings to early stage Cosmos projects. Now, something really exciting, and why I am particularly giving this workshop here at Modular Summit, is because we're actually bringing MACI voting natively to Celestia. We recently concluded the Infinite Space Bazaar hackathon with Celestia, which was the very first global virtual Celestia hackathon. And all of those hackathon winners have now been shortlisted to participate in the very first community funding MACI round. So basically what happens now is all of these winners, right, from all the different tracks, the build whatever track, the UX track, and the core track, they are actually going to be eligible to receive continuation funding, an additional $10,000 worth of continuation funding to help them finalize their MVP, help them reach full production, and the distribution of this funding is going to be decided via TIA stakers. So all TIA stakers are listed to vote in this MACI voting round. Their voting power is decided upon their individual stake weight. So people that stake more Celestia are able to have more of an impact. And this is all done via privacy voting, MACI on-door vote as L1. And if you scan that QR code right there and you're a Celestia staker, you'll be able to vote. And I'll also show you how to vote after this presentation's over. So yeah, so I just wanted to share that. And if you haven't voted in the AAZQF program I mentioned already, you can do that too. This is the largest program. Hopefully Celestia beats this record and becomes the largest, maybe. But for now, this is still the largest, and it's ongoing. As I said, I think you already saw that. Now, the last thing I want to mention, because I think I covered 2 of the 3 issues I mentioned, right? If you remember the beginning of this presentation, I said there's basically 3 shortfalls with vanilla MACI, right? First is that not everyone can be an operator. It's a technical job, so it's hard to spin up a MACI round. And I said we solved that. We made it more scalable by actually having the validators themselves be the operators. Therefore, anyone can spin up a MACI round, and we have this operator as a service infrastructure. The second issue I said is that operators can collude, right? Meaning they can delay posting the results. And obviously, if the operators are validators, they're economically incentivized not to do that anymore, right? Because they would get slashed. The last thing I mentioned is that operators know the identities, right, of the voters still. Like they're the one group where the votes aren't fully private from. And what we're solving and how we're solving that is something called anonymous MACI, right there, which is AMACI for short. That's right. So with AMACI, this is actually just a technical improvement of the of the base infrastructure itself, where now when people sign up to be a voter, because the way it works is you don't just vote directly in the round, it's 2 steps. You sign up, right? You connect your wallet and you sign up as a voter, and then once you're signed up, then you cast your vote. The way AMACI works is immediately after signing up, your address is immediately scrambled before the operator actually sees it. So it adds a layer of obfuscation in so that not even the operator knows the addresses of the voters. So it solves those 3 main hurdles with vanilla MACI. And AMACI is what we're going to start sharing a lot more of if you follow Door Factory on Twitter, the way that technology works. We're starting to give more technical workshops on that too. But those are the 3 major things, right? How do you scramble it? Yeah, it's actually, hopefully can be more automated in the future, but the way it works now is still kind of like a user input. The user signs up, and then the user actually has to manually deactivate their vote and then reactivate it, and when they reactivate it, it turns into a new address. So it still requires user input to scramble it, but hopefully in the future, what we're working on shipping is just a system where it automatically is immediately scrambled without the user having to take that extra step. Yeah, so that's kind of the end of MACI and AMACI and Door Voda, context-wise, and I just would love to take the opportunity to also just show you this in action. What's that?
Who came up with all this?
Oh.
It wasn't Chris.
No, Chris is a smart guy. So this is our existing front end right now, right? I already connected my wallet. It's a Kepler address, and this is kind of how the community will see it, right? When they come to vote in this community funding round, they come here, they can see all the options on the left-hand side, right? These are all the winners of the Celestia Infinite Space Bazaar Hackathon, right? And obviously improvements can be made. This is just a simple portable front end, improvements can be made to this quite easily, but we were more focused on the actual chain first. But this is what we have for now. And this is basically what they'll see when they come to want to vote, right? So you'll come connect your wallet, and here's what I said, you'll sign up to vote. It's coring my wallet right now. It sees that based on the amount of Celestia I have staked, I have a voting power of 50, right? This is variable depending on how much TIA is staked by that person, because how much you have staked depends on your voting power. So I'll sign up.
Is voice credits one-to-one with staked tokens?
No. It's well, why are you asking how much Celestia I have staked? It can be. The voice credits can be it can be decided by the organization, basically, yeah. So you'll approve it. I'll wait for the transaction to go through. Finish signing up. That's actually a question for our chief architect, Eric. Right now it's the one of the elliptic curves. but I think we can probably change it, yeah. So as you can see, now my wallet is, like I'm signed up to the vote, and I can click on what projects I want to vote for on the left, right? And as you saw, I had 50 votes available, right? So yeah, so definitely Sloth Chain, obviously, right? Anything else?
50 to Sloth Chain.
50 to Sloth Chain. How about Celestia? Celestia I haven't seen much around here at this event, but they were a one-click light node deployer that participated in the hackathon. And yeah, I was gonna say Celestia Hubble team is here too. That's the Selenium team downstairs. They won one of the first places for like this really cool global Celestia blob explorer. So if you haven't checked out Celestia Hubble by Selenium, it's actually really neat. They're downstairs here. But this is like how it'll go when the user actually comes to vote. And you'll see something quite interesting right here, because I think we set this up to be a quadratic vote, which is like a part of like how MACI works. Like MACI is very interoperable with any type of existing voting mechanism, whether you want to do like one token, one vote, or some type of quadratic system where, you know, even if I have 50 tokens staked, right, I can't actually vote 50 full power because of like, there's like a quadratic system in place to prevent like whale stakers to just like sway the vote unless they wanted to pay that much. So right with Sloth Chain, like if I want to allocate like 4 votes, you can see that takes 16 voice credits and I only have 50, right? So maybe I'll do 10, could I do 6 to Sloth Chain? We said Sloth Chain's everyone's favorite. And if I do and if I do 2 for the remaining, how about 2 for the remaining? So I'll use 44 voice credits total. And then I'll submit. I'll approve. And this is all happening on Dorvoda L1. There's chain abstraction in place where there's a gas station. So even if someone doesn't have Door token in their wallet, they can still vote because this module will cover the costs.
The grant module?
No, it's not.
Different
one.
Gas station.
Gas station. Yeah, the Dora is gas
Built
station.
by Dora?
Gas station? It's built by Dora? Yeah, there you go. So I voted now. You can see the amount of voice credits that have been allocated to each of these teams that were participating. And if you go to the details of the round, you should be able to see the vote transactions that just went through. So here it is. So these are the ones I just made right here. This vote right here, I signed up, right? And then if I go here, it cost me 6 Dora to cast the vote. And here's the transaction hash right here. That's basically it. Yeah. Any questions?
Can you share a little bit more about operator as a service, where how and can you go back to the first slide? Yeah, this page. Yeah. So the trust assumptions are removed with anonymous MACI.
Mm-hmm.
And it basically solves the operator collude problem.
Yeah.
But how can you explain a little bit more about like operator service and how they have to remove the problem if operators don't publish the results?
Because it'll get slashed. So there's an economic incentive for them to like not hold back the results of the vote, because all of the Dora vote and mainnet validators obviously like need Dora token staked to them, right, to remain in the active set. Right, that has value. There's an economic stake involved. So if they try to collude or they, don't publish the results of the vote, that's a slashing condition of the chain.
Currently, we don't require self-signing for the validators to.
That's correct. Yeah.
I think somehow it should be like this.
I think that's a common criticism of like proof of stake in general on chains where self-bond isn't required, because it's like if you get slashed, it's not your money, you're losing. But obviously in Cosmos in particular, right, a lot of the same validators validate like many of the chains. So there's like kind of a social slashing dichotomy, right, where it's like if they are seen colluding on this chain, like that could impact their reputation elsewhere. They're also like usually a lot like professional companies. You know, like I'm sure like Maven 11, you guys wouldn't be very happy if you found out Nocturne was colluding, right? So yeah, I think that that's kind of the way it works. But yeah, like I think via governance, you can always change some of those conditions. Like if we want to require validators to have a DORA self-bond in the future, like if the community wants that, you know, they can vote, or that governance proposal can be put up, right? Like another thing is like right now we have 12 mainnet validators. We only have 12 mainnet validator slots, right? It's not a POA chain, it's a permissionless proof of stake chain, but we only have 12 slots. And if they wanted to expand to more slots, that would also go through community governance, right? So I think like lots of, you know, changes on the periphery of this can still happen that could improve the protocol long term.
Can you teach me how gas station works?
Yeah, I think that's a separate workshop maybe.
I'm just wondering, like, how do you integrate it? So, like, let's say you want to create like a private app, like DAO, for example, but you want, like, in your company, you want to let people do vote through this, but like, is there a way to access MACI and then build your? I'm imagining you build your own blockchain, you host your own operator, and like because you're the one hosting, then you are assuming that it doesn't contribute, and there's only one operator, right?
Yeah, I think, yeah, exactly. It's like, so MACI by itself and MACI, right, which what we're working on now is like, this is like completely open source on the Door Factory repo. It's an open source module, like anyone can use it, right? But yeah, what we feel is like the advent of connecting this to a blockchain itself is what leads to some of these operator as a service like benefits, right? Like that actually is why anyone can like come to Dorvoda and like launch a MACI round even if they don't have their own operator. If someone wanted to like just host like a MACI, like if someone was technical, right, and they wanted to be their own operator and they didn't want, you know, they just wanted to like fork the MACI smart contract and like host their own MACI round, they could, you know, but I think that doesn't, like, that would be for like a specific purpose that they're doing. I don't know if that's something that's actually going to be able to service, you know, every single chain, you know, from a single underlying infrastructure, which is like ultimately what this is trying to be. Yeah. Any other questions?
When can you put it on initial?
We can put it on Nisha today. It's super easy. Yeah, it's like depending on the type of voting round, right, that you want to have. It's like it's either very easy or it's immediate, right? Because with select,
we made a new voting system on Cosmos for gauge votes because regular gauge votes would crash the Cosmos chain. Because if you have too many people voting on Cosmos chains, it like linearly adds up each voter, and that just breaks Cosmos.
Yeah.
So, adding a new type of voting standard, how difficult is that?
Well, I think so. In terms of voting standard, are you talking about like different types of voting mechanisms in general? Like not privacy, but things like, you know, is it a one token, one vote? Is it a gauge vote system?
It's like 6 types of votes.
Yeah, right. Oh, okay. Yes. Like, is it ranked choice? Is it single selection? Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's like a pretty drawn out process actually. But I know that Binary and Informal and AA DAO, Atom Accelerator DAO, they're all very focused on shipping that right now actually, because I don't know if you followed like new types of voting modules basically.
You just did add a new one. How long would that take to support within MACI?
I think it could. I don't think
that's there.
I think once that's there, we can do it like immediately, right? Because that's what I'm kind of saying. Like with the Celestia MACI voting round, right? That is a QV voting round, like as I just showed you, right? It's based on stake weight, right? So for us, there's like not even really an engineering integration we need to make with Celestia to do that. We just like query the state of the chain, right? For other voting rounds, like the AEZ-QF one, that's a quadratic funding round where the Cosmos community is actually donating their Atom token, right, to those projects. So for that, we set up an IBC channel, right, between Voda and Cosmos Hub. And the user actually, IBC sends their Atom token to Voda and then uses it to vote, right? So depending on what type of vote it is, right, that's what I'm saying, like we can still satisfy all of those like with MACI underlying it, right? Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
Airdrop the Dora token to 1 million Cosmos staker address for them to simply incentivize them to get cheap. 1 million. Yeah. So next step will be in it stake.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Any other questions? No? All good? Okay, cool. Thanks everyone for joining.